panel telling us about how it really works deployed in the field. So the panel will be led by Dave Meyer, now of Cisco. Okay, just keep track.
Whatever.
Yeah, and I'll hand the mic over to you.
Are these guys all on?
We'll switch the mic.
Okay, these guys will switch.
So you don't need to tap.
We'll watch you. They're really pretty good. Okay, thank you. Okay, how's this? All right, so this is going to be more or less freeform. I have some. What I want to do here is, let's see. I want to get as interactive as the discussion as we can. Have these people impart all their wisdom and their experiences to the rest of you who haven't embarked on this journey yet. And so, to that end, what I did was I made some questions, and what I wanted to do, and by the way, I don't know if this will work at all. I'm just winging it. So, what I'm going to do is ask these guys to answer these questions, and then I'm not sure what will work better, whether or not we can, if there's questions, if we can entertain those immediately after each of these questions or save them for the end. I'm thinking that it'll work better to try to entertain the questions immediately so people can remember what it was we were talking about. So, we have some questions, and then Dave Deibler has asked for a few minutes on mask BGMP. If anybody knows what that is, that'll be interesting to know too. And then maybe we can get a little bit of discussion on that, maybe some talk about futures, and then I just wanted to say a word or two about clock management. If we're going to allow all of these people a few minutes to speak, if we only leave a few minutes for each of them, we still have to kind of move along. So I'll have to look at my So I'll have to look at my clock. I'm sorry? Sound bites, right. Right. What? Oh, Hank, yeah. So is Hank around anywhere? Hey, John. Is Hank out there anywhere? We're missing Hank. He's on the phone. He'll get here. All right. So I guess we don't have the panelists don't have their names, so I think maybe as the first time you go through and answer one of these questions, maybe introduce who you are. That'll be the best way to handle this. So let me just show you what I'm hoping he's coming up. Okay. So what I thought would be interesting was for people to hear what these folks are deploying in their backbones right now and how they're doing it. Sparse stamps, MBGP, MSDP, those sort of things, DBMRP. Another thing that comes up a lot is how do I handle customer sites? And there's kind of two cases of that, tail sites and those who want to provide transit, and then there's this other whole issue of dial-up, which seems to be of great interest to everyone. And it would also be interesting to know what's driving the demand for these people, because a lot of times multicast is a service that everybody wants, but nobody knows why. So it'd be nice to know. And what else do I have? Oh, yeah, it'd be interesting to know where each of these folks is multicast peering and what their policy is, or how you might be able to peer with them if you want. And then have Dave talk about mask BGMP, and then if we have some more time left, we'll try to look at this other stuff. So that being said, I think the way to do it is, or the way I'd like to try it is, just go left to right. And okay, according to the way I have this computed, you have about 5 minutes at most. Okay. Okay. Each. Yeah. Well.
Okay. Well, let's see. I guess sort of the things that we should talk about.
Oh, one other thing, Dorian. I don't know if they switched it. You'd like it to drive that.
Okay. Simply. Deployment status, my name is Dorian Kim and I'm with Verio, and for the deployment status of multicast inside Verio, in the backbone network of Verio, we've been running MBGP fully meshed internally for last, say, 6 months or so. In the last 6 months, we've been working very hard to resolve some implementation and tactical issues with corporate cooperation of the vendors. In our case, we have a multi-vendor backbone in terms of the routers, and so there are some more coordination involved there. And it's been an interesting experience. In terms of the actual multicast machinery, the group memberships that we're basically using PIM sparse mode, actually really sparse dense mode, and using automatic auto RP to reduce configuration at the edges. Currently, we have some of the regions who have. For those of you who don't know what Verio is, we sort of have bought a whole bunch of ISPs, and of them we have a bunch of legacy M-bone infrastructure that we have to support and such. And so we're basically giving them to the regions the MBGP feed and the PIM, and the regions are generally handling the customer aggregation and such. And the predominant method of doing so far has been slowly transition the existing DVM-RP tunnel into PIM dense mode, and then the plan is to transition that off to the sparse mode and MBGP native connections. And that's sort of coming along somewhat slowly. And right now we're multicast peering at both Pensacola, Palo Alto Internet Exchange, and NASA Ames, the fixed Qwest exchanges. And we don't really have currently a policy for, who to peer with. We just peer with whoever shows up currently. I'm sure as things get to be more production and such, more structure will be imposed on that, but at this point it's still very much of a let's try to play with this and make this work and try to get as much operation experience as possible type of thing. What else? What's driving the demand?
Don't answer that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I have a question. How many people here have ever heard of MBGP? So this is just BGP that carries prefixes that are going to be used for multicast RPF checks. How about MSDP? Not much. Do we need like 5 seconds on MSDP? Do you want that? Okay, let me take a diversion here for a second, okay? All I have to do is figure out how to work PowerPoint, and I'll have it made. Or whatever this thing is. I think I've talked about this once before. A bunch of slides on it. We don't have to do them all. We'll do a few. Okay, so here's the problem. Let's see. Yeah, not right. Okay, hang on. This should just take a minute if we're lucky. So, MSDP is sort of a simple-minded protocol that was designed by all the usual suspects pretty quickly and implemented pretty quickly by Cisco, and now it's out there in many places. Basically, the reason it was designed was because providers want to run sparse mode backbones for obvious reasons, but the problem with this is that sparse mode was designed in sort of a flat way, so the RP space that's associated with that is flat, and that leads to problems like required sharing of RPs and so forth across administrative boundaries that was really not such a good idea. So basically, what we were looking for was a way to put your own administratively controlled core or RP wherever you wanted to. And this all reduced to this last problem here, which was how to connect multiple shared trees that were under different administrative control without having any third-party dependencies, right? So let me I think I have some pictures on how this works. Okay, so the long story short is, if you're running MSDP and PIM sparse mode, basically the RP knows where all the sources are because they have to register to it, right? That's how sources become known to the RP. And an RP knows if there's receivers inside a domain because it's received joins. So if an RP in one domain could tell where the active sources were in another domain, then all that other RP would have to do is join towards those sources, and voila, they'd be all connected, but there'd be no sharing, there'd be no inter-domain shared trees. So here's what it looks like. So if there's a source in AS1, oops, that didn't quite work. I don't know why. The video's kind of off-centered, I guess. If there's a source over in AS1 there, what it does is sends a register to the RP1, and that's just normal PIM sparse mode operation. And if there's a receiver, like on the left, it sends joins towards the RP2. Well, what MSDP does is, works like this. You put a peering up, it looks like a BGP peering. It's got a TCP connection and all of that stuff. And they're between RPs, usually, and over TCP, as I said, and they can be multi-hop, and there's no such thing as like internal MSDP. It's just they're all the same. Okay, so how this works is, yeah.
If you have multiple RPs,
Well, yeah, but it's not. Okay. Aside. So what happens? Okay, so the source sends, well, actually, it's the last hop router on the path to the source sends a register to the RP1, and RP1, if RP1 will send what are called source active messages that just describe where the source is back in this domain to RP2, and when RP2 sees that it has a member, it can just join directly on the shortest path tree back to that source. So there's no interdomain trees there. So this is the picture of that. I'm sorry it's cut off on the other side. I don't know enough about this to make it go the other way. But basically what happens is RP2 will just S(G) join back to the source, and then packets will flow in that direction, like this. So it's very simple that way. And what you wind up with is an interdomain source tree, not an interdomain shared tree. And that's kind of the important concept here. Okay, that's all I think I need to say about that. And if anybody has questions about that, we can, talk about it after, or if we have time left. Now all I have to do is figure out how to get my new ones back. Okay, what? Go ahead.
My name is Amir Tabdili. I work for Sprint, and we also are like thing what Dorian was talking about. Are we going with MBGP, PIM, and in the near future MSDP? Right now we have a backbone where we have a BGP mesh, and we're running PIM sparse mode. It's actually sparse dense with auto RP, the same exact thing Dorian said, and we're appearing at the Socket NAP, Sprint NAP, and also appearing with Qwest. We're appearing with some of my colleagues here. And the peering policy right now, basically, there isn't a peering policy for Multicast. So if somebody's interested, all you have to do is talk to me for now. So it's not a big problem. And I'm sure if in the near future, probably there's going to be some policies. So for now, there's none. Don't worry about it. And then
Don't answer this. Just stay with it.
Oh, yeah, the first one. Oh, for the and basically the way we're going to work it out is that the customers that are right now on our legacy M-bone machines, we're going to try to get them eventually to a PIM configuration, probably first dense, then sparse. And if any new customers want to bring up a